शान्तये। ॐ सिन्दूरारुणविग्रहां त्रिनयनां माणिक्यमौलिस्फुरत्तारानायकशेखरां स्मितमुखीमापीनवक्षोरुहां पाणिभ्यां मलिपूर्णरत्नचषकं रक्तोत्पलं बिभ्रतीं सौम्यां रत्नघटस्थरक्तचरणां ध्यायेत् पराम् अम्बिकाम्। ॐ ध्यायेन्नित्यं महेशम् रजतगिरिनिभं चारुचन्द्रावतंसं रत्नाकल्पोज्ज्वलाङ्गं परशुमृगवराभीतिहस्तं प्रसन्नं पद्मासीनं समन्तात् स्तुतममरगणैः व्याघ्रकृत्तिं वसानं विश्वाद्यं विश्वबीजं निखिलभयहरं पञ्चवक्त्रं त्रिनेत्रम्। ॐ नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करम्। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ सर्वोपनिषदो गावो दोग्धा गोपालनन्दनः पार्थो वत्ससुधीर्भोक्ता दुग्धं गीतामृतं महत्।
धृतराष्ट्र उवाच धर्मक्षेत्रे कुरुक्षेत्रे समवेतायुयुत्सवः मामकाः पाण्डवाश्चैव किं कुर्वत सञ्जय। श्रीभगवानुवाच क्लैप्यं मास्मगमः पार्थ नैतत्त्वयुपपद्यते क्षुद्रं हृदय दौर्बल्यं त्यक्त्वोत्तिष्ठ परन्तप। यदा यदा हि धर्मस्य ग्लानिर्भवति भारत अभ्युत्थानमधर्मस्य तदात्मानं सृजाम्यहम्। परित्राणाय साधूनां विनाशाय च दुष्कृतां धर्म संस्थापनार्थाय संभवामि युगे युगे। वीतरागभयक्रोधा मन्मया मामुपाश्रिताः बहवो ज्ञानतपसा पूता मद्भावमागताः। कर्मण्यकर्म यः पश्येत् अकर्मणि च कर्म यः स बुद्धिमान् मनुष्येषु स युक्तः कृत्स्नकर्मकृत्। ब्रह्मार्पणं ब्रह्महविः ब्रह्माग्नौ ब्रह्मणाहुतं ब्रह्मैव तेन गन्तव्यं ब्रह्म कर्म समाधिना। श्रेयान् द्रव्यमयात् यज्ञात् ज्ञानयज्ञः परन्तप सर्वं कर्म अखिलं पार्थ ज्ञाने परिसमाप्यते। तद्विद्धि प्रणिपातेन परिप्रश्नेन सेवया उपदेक्षयन्ति ते ज्ञानं ज्ञानिनस्तत्त्वदर्शिनः। यत् ज्ञात्वा न पुनर्मोहम् एवं यास्यसि पाण्डव येन भूत्यान शेषेण द्रक्ष्यास्यात्मन्यमथो मयि तस्मात् अज्ञानसम्भूतं हृतस्थं ज्ञानासिनात्मनः चित्वैनं संशयं योगम् आत्तिष्ठ उत्तिष्ठ भारत न कर्तृत्वं न कर्माणि लोकस्य सृजति प्रभुः न कर्मफलसंयोगं स्वभावस्तु प्रवर्तते नादत्ते कस्यचित् पापं न चैव सुकृतं विभुः अज्ञेनावृतं ज्ञानं तेन मुह्यन्ति जन्तवः ये हि संस्पर्शजा भोगा दुःखयोनय एव ते आद्यन्तवन्तः कौन्तेय न तेषु रमते बुधः.
Thank you. That was very nice. Wonderful. Acha. You see. Welcome, Tarun. I see a new person has joined our group.
Yeah, thank you. I'm right now driving. I'll be home like soon, so I'll be able to talk and also turn my video on.
Yes, drive safely.
Yes.
You can also watch the video afterwards. I suggest.
Yeah, but I'm almost there. So yeah. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Your new generation is very adept at multitasking. Very good. Welcome. Yeah. Namaste Mahesh and Shalab and Namaste Supraja. I suspect Chetan and
Namaste.
Namaste Mahesh. Chetas and Pavan. Namaste. Very good to see you. Yeah. Okay. So we are actually in this Adhika Mas, which is usually after Shraddha Paksh, we go straight into Navratri, but this time we have the Adhika Mas intervening. So kind of a hiatus time, time for us to reflect on the Shraddha Paksh and anticipate the beginning of the Navratri. Right? Navratri season is changing. So where are we? We are in chapter 8, and I believe
we completed number 10.
Oh, thank you, Mahesh. Yes. Number 10, right. So so far, Bhagavan has been talking about, where the thought should be, echoing verse 5. In answer to Arjuna's questions, Kim tad brahma, kim adhyatmam, kim karma, kim karma purushottama, adhibhutam cha kim proktam, adhidaivam kim uchyate. Right. And to these questions, Bhagavan answers in detail over about 30 verses in this 28 verses. Yeah, this Taraka Brahma Yoga. So he also asks, Arjuna also asks, Adhi Yajnaha Katham Ko Atra Dehe Asmin Madhusudana. Who in this body operates the sacrifices? And finally, the last one, Prayana Kalecha Katham Gyeyaha Asi Niyata Atma Bhihi. At the time of departure, how are you to be known by the self-controlled yogis? So really, the answer to the last is being now explored or expanded on, because Bhagavan already answered. Supreme Brahman is the imperishable, Aksharam Brahma. Inner self is spirit as subject. And Swabhava Adhyatma Uchyate. Work is manifest creation and bringing beings into existence. So, and then he has answered all those things, and he answered in verse 5, he answered the last question. Antakale cha mameva smaran muktva kalevaram yap prayati samadbhavam yati nastyatra samshayah. At the end, whoso departs giving up his body, remembering me alone, proceeds to my status of this, there is no doubt. And then he expands on why, because the idea that whatever is thought at the time of departure, that is reached. And he says, therefore, at all times remember me and fight. Dedicating mind and intellect to me, rid of all doubts, you will reach me indeed, etc. Then Bhagavan is giving more details, and this nice section from the Purusha Suktam itself, Aditya Varnam Tamasah Parastat, comes there, and Kavim Puranam Anushasitaram, etc. Anoraniyamsam Anusmaredya. Right. Then finally 10. Prayana Kale Manasa Achalena Bhaktya Yukto Yoga Balena Chaiva Bruvor Madhye Pranam Aveshya Samyak Satam Param Purusham Upaiti Divyam. At the hour of departure, whoso with steady mind, don't miss the beautiful use of this word whoso, which is a very, would now be considered archaic. But if you read books in English of the Arthurian legends, there you would see this word whoso. Whoso is a short form for whosoever. And in those days it was used. So, whoso with steady mind and with devotion and the power of yoga sustains aright the life force between the brows and remembers, reaches the spirit supreme divine. Very nice, beautiful translation. Then, so, Punarapi Vakshamanena Upayena Prati Pitsitasya Brahmanaha Veda Vidvat Anadi Visheshasya Abhidhanam Karoti Bhagavan. Again, the Lord elucidates Brahman, sought to be known by the means presently set forth and distinguished as the sole theme of the Veda knowers. Veda Vidvat. And this is a very important and powerful point that Bhagavan Shankaracharya emphasizes. To the one who knows Brahman, the Veda is useless. To the one who doesn't know Brahman, the Veda is also useless. Meaning that endlessly knowing, memorizing, and studying is pointless if the goal is not reached. And yet, that does not mean that exercise is pointless. The thing is at all times to keep in mind, well, what is the point of this Veda? Right? So that one may become a true Vedavit. So that is the point. It's not to say that when he's saying that, another way to put it is, take life itself, right? To the one who has realized the purpose of life, the human existence is useless. Why? Because once you use the can opener to open the can, you don't need the can opener after that, right? You can take what's inside the can, right? On the other hand, to one who has not realized the purpose of life, it doesn't matter if the body is dropped also, right? Because anyway, the purpose of life has not been reached. You can throw the can away in the trash and keep moving. You see, this is a very fundamental and beautiful concept, which Bhagavan is, and Shankaracharya is trying to set forth again and again. It is, again in the Narayana Suktam, you get this one. Narayanam Mahagyeyam Vishvatmanam Parayanam. Narayana Mahagyeyam. He's the great one to be known. Right? Vishvatmanam, the soul of the world. Right? And then it will come Narayana paro jyotir. Atma Narayana paraha. Narayana is the paro jyoti. He is the ultimate light. Not the light in the tube's light or even in the fire. Not even the light in sunlight. But the light that illuminates even the eye itself. That light. The light that even the eye cannot see, but through which the eye sees. What is that light? Right? And so that is Atma. Right? He is the light beyond and also Atma Narayana. Then it says Narayana Param Brahma Tattvam Narayana. He is also what you see as the world, Param Brahma. He is that which has expanded into this massive universe that we see. And that tattva, the essence element, the essential part of that is also Narayana. So this way, this beautiful Narayana Suktam brings out this point that Brahman sought to be known by the means presently to be set forth, distinguished as a sole theme. So what is this? Yad Aksharam Ved, oh sorry, somebody has to read 11. Who is going to take up recitation duty?
I can.
Please do, man.
Yadaksharam Veda Vido Vadanti Visanti Yadayato Vitaragaha Yadit Santo Brahmacharya Saranti Tatte Padam Sangrahena Prabhache.
The meter has changed in this one.
Yeah, it was hard.
Right. Yad Aksharam Veda Vido Vadanti. That imperishable which the ones who know the Vedas speak of, set forth. Vishanti, and enter into, is what I would think. Yad Yatayo Vitaragaha. Yes, which ascetics devoid of attachments enter into, correct. Yad Icchanto Brahmacharyam Charanti, and seeking which they live a life of continence, Brahmacharya. Tat te padam sangrahena pravakshe. That goal briefly I shall declare to you. Right? So, this is a peculiar conundrum. The expression of intelligence in the human realm after the truth is known is the Veda. Right? If there is anything intelligent one can say after seeing the truth, it is that God exists. It is this wonderful Lord that has drawn all good people together. And the most expressive and natural way is the Veda itself. Right? And yet, merely learning it and repeating it does not lead to the goal. But yet, it helps. It purifies. So the idea is that in this human birth, take whatever essential part of the Veda that you can access, whatever is accessible, and then pursue that in the way to take the pith and essence out of that piece. So that's why, again, I say, it doesn't matter. You take Vishnu Sahasranam. Fair enough. It's not a Vedam, but, Mahabharata is also called the fifth Veda sometimes, right? And it comes in that. So, usme bhi, can you take the pith and essence out of it, right? And so you do not need to know, one may get daunted and think, oh my God, there are so many mandalas in the Rig Veda. There are so many mandalas in the Yajur Veda also. There are so many Brahmanas, Upanishads. The Vedic literature is vast, right? In fact, it is so vast that that's why Vedavyas said, in this time of short lifespan of men, they cannot master the four Vedas. In the old days, the men had longer age. They lived to 10,000 years. They could master all the four Vedas. Now I will split it into 4 parts so that men of short lifespan can still carry on this wisdom, right? And then within that splitting also, there are so many recensions, what they say, so many shakhas, right? It is not that even if you take Yajurved, there is Krishna Yajurved, Shukla Yajurved, ways of recitation are different. Each Rishi has a different shakha following. There is Taittiriya, Vajasani, right? and so forth. So this can be very daunting, of course, right? And yet, the mystery of this is that the truth is so simple. What is this paradox? This is the paradox. This is the Rubik's Cube that we have to solve in the lifetime, right? Through the repeated, so whatever little piece one takes, as one's practice, so you adopt it. That's why the abhyas is so important. Some practice has to be structured. And because the human being is composed of 4 modes of operation, every human being has a mind, although unfortunately we do know, there are some cases where human birth happens. I was just listening on the radio today of a man who was talking about his sister who was born retarded. Her entire life is lived at the age of 4 years. So barring, of course, these circumstances, having obtained a full human functioning mind and body, all the senses operating, mind operating, body operating, this is such a blessing. It's not a given, right? Okay, that has been obtained. Then what happens is we have the mind, and the mind will think, and thoughts will become words, will become actions. And so therefore, some sort of karma is needed, some sort of ritual action, which will reinforce, cleanse the mind, and open up this truth, how to solve the Rubik's Cube. That is how Nitya Karma. Whatever you do is the beginning. Then, of course, we also have a heart, an emotional side, I should say more. And so the emotional side to cultivate this Bhakti Marg is very important. Because karma alone, as we know, does not lead to the truth. It has to, karma purifies the mind till it starts to seek knowledge, till it becomes a jnanarthi. And this jnana and this bhakti are just the same thing, 2 sides of the same coin. So easy way to cultivate jnana is to cultivate bhakti. And yet, we are all endowed with an intellect also, a sort of a, everybody wants to be consistent, right? We're always trying to seek some consistency in our world picture, what we experience through the senses, what we hear from society, what we want to reconcile this with what we are taking as the truth from the scriptures. This is very natural. And that is the Jnana aspect. So that is why Jnana Yoga is needed. But that Jnana Yoga becomes natural when there is Anubhava in the end. Right? It is our direct experience that gives more faith. It strengthens our faith. Because after that, you don't have to have any hearsay. You just say, yes, this is how it is. This is the experience. And so for that, Raja Yoga is that 4th leg, which is very powerful in allowing this Gyan to become from beyond just something read from a book to becoming an experience. This Raja Yoga. Raja Yoga or Bhakti Yoga, both are, in the end, they become indistinguishable. Bhakti, when carried to its limit, is no different from Raja Yoga. So, right. So anyway, where were we? So this riddle, the imperishable, which the Veda Vedaha set forth, they speak of Vadanti, Vishanti, which yet Yataha Vitaragaha. Yataha is the ones who are making effort. Yatna jo kar rahe, right? Vitaragaha, devoid of any attachments. Again and again this comes, right? Vitaraga bhaya krodha. And also we have the one of the kleshas in Yoga Sutra is Ragadvesha, right? So having brought those to a rest, into which they enter, like salt dissolving in water, right? That is the experience of the ascetics devoid of attachments entering into the imperishable. So let us read the commentary a little bit. What does not lapse? What does not lapse is the imperishable. Yat aksharam na ksharati iti aksharam. Right? In like a Nirukta passage from Sanskrit, that which does not na ksharati iti aksharam. Yat aksharam na ksharati iti aksharam. Avinashi. Already that word came earlier, no? Avinashi tu tad vidhi yena sarvam idam tatam. No? Veda vidaha ved arthagyaha. Those who know the meaning of the Veda. Vadanti etadvai tad aksharam gargi brahmana abhivadanti iti shrutehe. So you see again, Bhagavan Shankaracharya Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam. Right? Immediately will come the most apt reference from Brihadaranyaka Upanishad here. Etadvai, this verily, tad aksharam. This indeed is that imperishable, Gargi, Brahmana, which Brahmanas declare, Abhivadanti, 388, Ityadi, Sarva Vishesha Nivartakatvena, Abhivadanti, Asthulam Ananu, not gross, not subtle. They declare it. It is free from all limitations. Vishesha Nivartakatvena. And once right vision is won, Kimcha Vishanti Pravishanti, Samyak Darshana Praptau, having obtained that right vision, Satyam Yat Yatayaha Yatana Shilaha, right? The renouncers, free from attachments, the seekers, the ones who strive, Yatana Shilaha, Sanyasinaha, Vitaragaha, Vitaha Vigataha Ragaha. Vigataha raga vitaraga. Yebhyaha te vitaragaha. Yatcha aksharam icchantaha gyatum iti vakya sheshaha. Seeking the imperishable. To know it, they observe celibacy. Brahmacharyam gurau charanti acharanti. Tat te padam tat aksharakyam padam padaniyam tu tubhyam sangrahena. That goal, named the imperishable, I shall briefly declare. Sankshepaha tena sankshepena. Pravakshe kathayishyami, I will tell you now. Tat te padam sangrahena pravakshe, the last padam. Okay, so then let's see what Bhagavan has to say. There is a little bit more commentary, and maybe I will quickly, in Prashna Upanishad, etc. Holy sir, among men, which world does he win who meditates on Om as long as he lives? To him spoke he, Satyakama. Om is both greater, both the higher and lower Brahman. Prashna Upanishad 5.1. Starting thus, the following utterances set forth the adoration of Om. Whoso meditates on the Supreme Spirit by means of the syllable Om with its three elements is led up to the world of Brahma. Prashna Upanishad 5.5. Also Kathopanishad, I suppose, 2.14.15. Yes. Apart from righteousness and unrighteousness, the goal that all Vedas proclaim, that all penances declare, seeking which they lead a life of continence. I utter that briefly for you. Viz. Om. Right? This is a famous verse, actually. Sarve Veda Yat Padam Amananti. Tapamsi Sarvani cha Yat Vadanti. Yat Icchanto Brahmacharyam Charanti. Tat te Padam Sangrahena Bravimi Om iti etat. So in fact, there is a lot of reflection of that Kathopanishad even in this verse itself, as you can see. And of course, I also mentioned to you that the remarkably vacuous Paul Deussen commentary on this dismissed the Kathopanishad as pretty hollow for coming to this simple conclusion. But such is the arrogance of the ignorant. We'll leave that aside and move on. Anyway, so like an image or representative symbol it serves as a means for inquirers of slow and medium understanding to know the Supreme Brahman. This is interesting. So, Manda Madhyama Buddhinam Vivakshitasya Omkarasya Upasanam Kalantari Muktiphalam Uktam Yat. So, Ityadibhischa Vachanaihi Parasya Brahmana Vachaka Rupena Pratimavat Pratika Rupena Va. So, this is very interesting and important act. Like an image or a representative symbol. So, Pratimavat, image. Pratika Rupena Va. And also Vachaka Rupena as a signifier. Right? Remember Yoga Sutra, Tasya Vachakaha Pranava. Whose Vachaka? Ishvaras. The signifier of the Lord is Om. Okay. So in Yoga Sutra also it says, you see, there are different types of samadhis. Savitarka, Savichara, and then Nirvitarka, Nirvichara, and then Nirbija. So what Bhagavan is saying is that whether you approach visually through a symbol or you approach auditorily through the sound, right? These are useful ways to lead even the Manda, which is slow inquirer, or Madhyama, medium Buddhinam. It serves the purpose of as a means to know the Supreme Brahman, which is its great power. Such knowledge yields liberation in the fullness of time. Right? Purvokta rupena prati upaya bhutasya omkarasya kalantara mukti phalam. After time has passed, mukti phalam, fruit of liberation, upasanam, through this upasana. Right? Here too, that very meditation has been set forth in Bhagavad Gita 8.9.11. Meditation on Om with the practice of yoga, both 8.9 and 11. 8.9, right? Whoso remembers, etc. As also related certain related matter. Meditation on Om with the practice of yoga that later leads to liberation has to be taught as also certain related matter. The following verses serve this purpose. Grantha Arabhyate. So, who is going to read 12?
I can go. Sarvadvarani sanyamya मनोरुद्धि निरुध्य च मूर्धन्याधायात्मनः प्राणम् आस्थितो योगधारणाम्.
Very nice. Yeah. Tricky in third path. Yes. Sarvadvarani, all the gateways. So what are all the gateways? The body is said to have 9 gates. Navadvar. Right? So we know the usual ones: 2 eyes, 2 ears, right? Nostrils, mouth, etc. Excretory organ, generative organ, etc. 8 in number. And the 9th one is the Brahmarandra, through which the Lord enters. And so controlling the gateways of the senses. Sarvani cha tani dvarani cha sarvadvarani upalabdhav tani sarvani sanyamya. All the gateways of the senses, confining mano hridi nirudhya cha, confining the mind in the heart. So what this practice is actually a practice called Yoga Nidra, where whenever a thought arises, it is sent directly to the heart center, to the Anahat Chakra. So for this, you have to understand a little bit how the 3 states. So remember that although there is only one, the Turiya, the 4th, the mind experiences Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti. Right? When the mind is in Jagrat Avastha, The consciousness resides between the eyebrows in the Agnya Chakra. In that state, the mind experiences the world it's in what it thinks is waking. When the mind consciousness descends down to the Vishuddhi Chakra, it enters the Swapna state. When the consciousness then resides in the Anahat Chakra, it enters the state of Sushupti, deep sleep. Right? Now, the easiest way to know this consciousness is first in the waking state, right? And that is why first meditation on Agya Chakra has already been recommended. If you remember, Bruvor Madhye in number 10. Whoso with steady mind and with devotion and power sustains aright the life force, this pranam, right? That which is called consciousness, the Lord, is where both prana and mind emerge from. There is a single point. In our normal experience, we only know the mind. Well, if you're able to observe it from the standpoint of buddhi, you can see the jumping of the mind. If one practices yoga, then one gets beyond the Annamaya Kosha into the Pranamaya Kosha. So there are these different bodies inside. One can then experience the pranic body itself, right? Which is sitting inside this one. Going deeper into the pranic body, one sees the Manomaya Kosha. All these are seen from the standpoint of Vijnanamaya Kosha, right? But ultimately, both this mind and prana emerge from only one point. They don't have separate origins, right? So when Bhagavan says placing the prana at the between the eyebrows, he means focusing. So recognizing that consciousness operating through the Agya is what is giving us this waking state experience. In this one now, he's saying that, but the difficulty is in the waking state, the mind is active. It tends to have vrittis keep coming up, right? So yogis know another way to also access this consciousness is by constantly, so in the deep sleep state also, yogis can access this consciousness. In the Sushupti Avastha also, okay? And that state is attained by gently, slowly bringing the breath back almost to a whisper. And whenever any thought arises, by sending it to the Anahat Chakra. This practice called Yoga Nidra is what Bhagavan is saying here. Confining the mind in the heart. That's what is meant. Whenever any thought arises, it is sent into the heart chakra. Because that's what happens in deep sleep. In deep sleep, it happens shall we say, unintentioned by us. It happens involuntarily. You go to bed at night, you put your head on the pillow, body is tired, and then, there is a scientific definition of rapid eye movement sleep, and then after that, there is the deep sleep. They say there are different levels. Yogis can directly go into that level through Yoga Nidra by practice. And that's why actually, if you read writings of Sri Swami Ram, for instance, how can yogis get by with very little sleep? Because their sleep is very high quality. The amount of time that the mind spends in going through all the REM and all that we take 8 hours, they can compress in, say, 3 hours Yoga Nidra and be done with it and be back up and running as if nothing had happened, right? That is by accessing the deepest sleep. So that's what Bhagavan is mentioning here, controlling all the gateways, confining the mind in the heart, fixing the life breath in the crown. So, Murdhni Adhaya, right? Murdhnyadhaya is Murdhni in the crown. Adhaya Atmanaha, Pranam Asthitaha, right? Yoga Dharanam, through the Dharana, intent on the maintenance of the yoga, right? Murdhni Adhaya Atmanaha, confining, fixing the life, Pranam Asthitaha, Yoga Dharanam. me just read the commentary here. Tani sarvani sayam, that is clear. Samyamanam kritva manaha hridaya pundarike nirudhya. Right. And you see this important word pundarika is the lotus. So this is why I said anahata chakra, because all these chakras are lotuses. When you say pundarika, it doesn't mean that his eyes are like a lotus. This is the commonly translated. Lotus side one. No, he whose eye is in the lotus. Right? Whose eye is in the lotus? It's inside you. Right? Anyway. Lotus side one, indeed. Yes, yes. That is also true. Okay. Nirodham kritva nishpracharam apadhya. Immobilizing it there. Tatra vashikritena, there having through the control, anasa, hridayat, urdhva gaminya nadya, so through the sushumna nadi, through the brahmarandra, nerve going up from the heart. Urdhvam arudhya murdhni adhaya atmanah pranam astitah pravrittah yogadharanam dharayitum. Holding the life breath in the crown, one commences the practice. In fact, in pranayam also we do this, right? We've been discussing in the Sandhya Vandanam. What you're doing in pranayam is also the same thing, right? So when you do the dirgha pranayam, till you come to satyam, you're up there at the crown. And that is where the meditation is supposed to be done on Gayatri. Because first you describe the Vyakriti, Bhor, Bhova, Suva, Mahajana, Tapas, Satya, right? Satyam, then Tatsa Viturvarenyam. That meditation is done with the consciousness at the crown and etc. So holding the life breath right there, and please next one, 13. Who's going to read?
I can go.
Please.
Omityekaracham brahma vyaharan mamanusmaran yah prayati tyajan deham sayati paramam gatim.
Yeah. Thank you, Shiva. Very nice. So Archit, you remember you had this question, right? This is the answer to your question. We had discussed some time ago. Om iti eka aksharam brahma. So this Om, Pranava, eka, there's one monosyllable Om, eka aksharam is Brahman. Vyaharan, mam anuswaran, uttering and remembering. Yah prayati, he who leaves, goes forth. Tyajan deham, he who leaves, giving up the body. Sayati, he reaches paramam gatim, the highest goal. So it's that simple. So actually that's why you don't need all the Vedas. Right? If you truly know the meaning of the pranava, you don't need the Vedas at all. At all. Not even one syllable is needed. And this is kind of what the Bhakti Marg people were, in some sense, it seemed like they were rebelling against, right? Correct? It's like, why do you need all these intermediaries? Why do you need all these pandits? Fair enough, right? But the truth is, if you actually reach that, you would not come back and repudiate what is in the Vedas. Because that is the truth too. Right? How can they reach two different truths? It's not possible. Right? So therefore, if somebody comes to you and says, oh, all these pandits, yes, you're right. So-called panditry without this is, yes, certainly, then practice Om. and tell me what you see. Please come back and tell me what you see. And if you don't see the Vedas and their truth, then you've not reached the goal. Because these guys are not idiots, right? All the Bhakti Marg people say all this stuff. Do you think the rishis were idiots? I mean, your very notion of Vishnu and Shiva came from the Vedas only. Where did it come from? Right? Even if you follow the so-called educated scholarly literature, which ascribes mistakenly a chronology to this, they say, oh, you know, the Indra and the Agni and the Vedic gods. And then later came Krishna and Shiva and everything. Yes or no? Right? This baloney is also existent. So if you want to buy that baloney, buy it, right? Then you have to ask, where did they come from, right? Nobody created them just like that. Arey bhaiya, in that final state, they are all the same, right? Indeed, they all merge into the Trimurti. But then why should you then say that, oh, all this is, no, this cannot be true. The path of bhakti and the path of Gyan do not lead to different points. They become one actually. They become merge into one. And so there is wonderful, fantastic power and bliss in Vedic chanting. And that is also true that if you know the meaning of Om, you don't need all that stuff also. That is also true. And if you adore, if you just say Ram, 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 that will take you there. If you say Panchakshari, that will take you there. If you say Dvadashakshari, that will take you there. And if you do Shakti Puja, Devi Puja, that will take you there. They are all, but yet in the Puranas and in our thing, these are structured in such a way that you can accept and go easily. So for instance, if you do the worship of Ganesh first in your sadhana, you will attain the goal. Whereas if you start with the worship of Kartikeya, I believe it will not do the same, because Kartikeya is the product of Vijnana after Gyan. First, the mind has to turn inward, it has to know the truth, and then when it comes out, it will understand Kartikeya. If it first tries to understand Kartikeya, that's not how it works, right? First, you must prostrate to Ganesh, then invoke Devi. Devi will take you to Shiva. Then everything is revealed, right? And on that path to Shiva, the Brahma and Vishnu Granthis have to be pierced. So therefore, you have to understand who is Brahma. You have to understand who is Vishnu, right? And then after that, any doubt about this Shiva Vaishnava thing will also disappear, right? It will become clear, you know, why just the outgoing mind or the ingoing mind likes one or the other. So all being aspects of the same pranava after all. Therefore, so very beautiful verse. Now the difficulty though, so here is the thing that maybe, and also, you know, in our own tradition, people will say only sannyasis should meditate on Om by itself. This is a general, you will say, traditional wisdom, received wisdom, that only the one who wishes to transcend everything meditates on Om by itself. And so therefore, depending on one's Kula Sampradayam, etc., usually we classify as having a more Vaishnava bent or a Shaiva bent. And for them, the Panchakshari, Dvadashakshari or Panchakshari are recommended, right? As Saguna aspects, okay? So that person, after the realization, may still engage in the world like a Kartikeya. Right? How did Kartikeya come back? Shining through the 6 chakras, blazing intelligence through all the 6 chakras, defeating Tarakasura, Surapadman, and living in the world, taking a wife. Right? That is the way that the Upanishad said we should live. Jiji Vishet Shatam Samaha. Right? So ideally, a brahmachari, initiated at early age, when they do the Upanayanam, that person would have already mastered Kundalini awakening and know the inward path, right? Studies intensely the Vedas with the Vedangas and the meaning by age 16 has mastered, right? And at that point, his father would say, now son, time has come for you. You've returned from the Gurukul, you should take a wife. Okay. If that person had not fully realized the truth, he may still need one last step from the Guru. And so he would say, no. And in olden days, people, honestly, the ones who had this would say, no, I don't want to get engaged in this, enmeshed in this worldly life again. I know what the price of the senses are. I'm going away to Kashi. It's called, this is a ritual called Sabha, where, Kashi Yatre, we call it in the south. The groom, in a huff, takes an umbrella and walks off, right? Nowadays, of course, the groom is not walking 2 steps. People have to push him, go. You have to go on Kashi Yatra. He doesn't know what it means to go on Kashi Yatra. This Vairagya is meant to come from the heart, right? That yes, you brought this wonderful damsel, her parents are all standing here, but I have seen the truth, I don't want this, okay? And then at that point, even Vyasa's son Shukdev, who was so pure in his mind, he was told by Vyasa, please go get married. And Shukdev said, no, I do not want to, I've seen everything. So then he said, no, you go talk to Raja Janak. I cannot teach you this, but go speak to Janak. Raja Janak was a Brahmagyani, fully engaged and living in the world. So then he advised Shukadev, he said, no, my son, the rejection of the world is not an indication of sannyas necessarily. You may live in it, but not be of it, right? So to live in it and yet have the mental attitude that this is all a play. I can let it go at any instant. He said, that, my son, is what you should cultivate. So don't reject. And this is the sense in which people say, don't meditate on Om and become a sannyasi, right? Because this pravartitam chakram, this phrase comes also in the Bhagavad Gita. This thing set into motion by the Lord intends that one goes through the 4 ashramas or treats them as an ati ashrami, right? And so anyway, so that is why they say, okay, take Dwadashakshari or Panchakshari, begin with Ganesh, pay your due respects to him so that he will allow you into that, central channel. यहाँ पहले आया था व्याहरण Sayati Paramam Gatim. Actually, it comes only in the commentary, I think. He says, that was just here. Yeah. In the 12.1 commentary, he says, Urdhvagaminya Nadya, Urdhvam Arukhya. How to enter this? This Nadi cannot be entered without the grace of Ganesh. Just like he would not allow even Shiva into the inner apartments of the Devi, as you know from the Puranic story, which led to his being beheaded. He's not going to let an ordinary human being. He would not let Shiva in there. Why will he let you in there, right? So first one must gain his favor. One must pray with great intensity to him at the Mooladhara. Then he opens the door. And then one may have the grace and the vision and the experience of Devi, who will then, being as she is the eternally kind mother, the mother beyond all mothers, she would never ever refuse the devotee's call. At that point, she will take care of everything, right? So she will give all the, whatever is needed will be revealed. And then after that, she goes to her consort. Shakti always goes to her consort, Shiva, right? So she will she knows the way. And she has meditated for so long in that ridge, Gandhamadana, right, as Uma. Even when her mother Menaka told her, don't, Ma, she said, don't, Uma, that's the name. Uma means don't do this strict meditation for this guy who is a social outcast, wearing skulls around his neck, ash smeared all over him. But she said, no, I will pray for him without even eating a single leaf as Aparna. Right. So she has shown the way how to reach him. Right. And that union, so once Shiva and Shakti get united, what will happen? Kartikeya has to be born. Right? Then that is the Vijnana path. Jnana Vijnana. Right? And so after that, one can follow and understand the ways of Lord Muruga, how he came and lived and enjoyed all the parts of the world, etc. So this is the thing I have told you in a long and winded way, which Bhagavan has given very nicely in 2 verses, 12 and 13. How about we can maybe do 14, and I think 15 was yeah, 15 and 16 are pretty nice. Let's see if we can get at least to 15. So 14 now.
I can go.
Please.
अनन्यचेताः सततं यो मां स्मरति नित्यशः तस्याहं सुलभः पार्थ नित्ययुक्तस्य योगिनः.
Very nice. Ananya Chetaha. So the unbroken, constant, single-minded, right? Ananya na anya vishaye chetaha yasya saha. Beautiful. Who has no other thought in his mind. I am Ananya Chetaha, yogi. Satatam yomam smarati nityashaha. He who remembers me always. Right? Satatam. Satatam iti nairantaryam. Chetaha yogi. Satatam sarvada yah maam parameshwaram smarati nityashaha. Satatam iti nairantaryam. So you see, in Yoga Sutra, again, what is the meaning of abhyas we talked about, right? Abhyas, tatra sthitau yatna abhyasa. To rest in that state is abhyas. And then satu, dirgha kale, nairantarya asevito, satkara asevito, drida bhumi. And that, satu, dirgha kale, for a long time. Nairantarya, uninterruptedly. Satkara, with a correct attitude. Asevitaha, when that is practiced, that becomes drida bhumi, a firm foundation. So again, you see the resonance of this Nairantarya coming back here in the commentary. Uchyate nityashaha iti dirgha kalatvam, again, is just like echoing the same words from that Yoga Sutra, right? Na shanmasam samvatsarava kim tarhi. Not just for 6 months or a year, but as long as one is alive. Although I would say 6 months is pretty good for a start. Kim tarhi yavat jivam nairantaryena yaha maam smarati ityartha. Undoubtedly, this is the standards of Guru are very high. Tasya yoginaha aham sulabhaha. Right. So to such a yogi, I am very accessible. Tasya aham sulabhaha partha nitya yuktasya yoginaha. To one who is constantly yoked to me. Right. To such a, I'm easily accessible as he is in perpetual communion. Right? Nitya yuktasya sada samahita chittasya yoginaha. Yataha evam ataha ananya chetaha san mai sada samahita bhave. Such being the case, single-mindedly, one must always be in communion with me. Then question. Tava saulabhyena kim syat iti. What is the use of your easy accessibility? Uchyate. Now listen. Shrunu tat mama saulabhyena yat bhavati. What does that easy accessibility to me yield? And that is verse 15.
I'll go, Shankush.
Please.
मामुपेत्य पुनर्जन्म दुःखालयमशाश्वतं नाप्नुवन्ति महात्मानः संसिद्धिं परमां गताः.
Very nice, beautiful. Mam upetya, having reached me. Past participle, right? Punarjanma, again birth. Dukkha alaya, in the abode of sorrow. Ashashvatam, and transient, ephemeral. Right? Na apnuvanti, do not gain. Mahatmanaha, the great ones, magnanimous sages. Samsiddhim paramam gataha, who have reached the supreme perfection. Siddhi paramam samsiddhim paramam, the ones who have gone to that state of supreme perfection. Reaching me and winning supreme perfection, magnanimous sages no longer suffer rebirth, this ephemeral abode of all sufferings. But you know, it takes time for this notion that dukkha yonaya evate, etc. You know, this notion for it to become permanent, because the power of Maya is very great. Bhagavan's Yoga Maya is very great, and for this to become firmly rooted is not easy. And even I can tell you directly from my personal experience, the world can seem very pleasant at times, and yet in the Yoga Sutra it says that dukkham eva sarvam vivekina. To the wise, this bhulokam and these sensory experiences are the wombs of sorrow. Okay, that sounds pretty dark, which is why I try to say, well, let's first look at that Anandamaya Kosh. Let us first enjoy that bliss, right, of the self, right? I think that's a more a carrot, positive way to pose the quest than a stick, right? Don't you think? Right? So it can be framed in another way also, and it's also framed that way. And in fact, maybe next time I would like to pull out, I wanted to actually share with you the Anandavalli part of the Taittiriya Upanishad, which is a quantification of bliss. Okay, so Vishayananda, the joy of objects through the senses, it is pleasurable. I feel that's a more positive way to cast it. It's just pleasure, right? And so that's one unit. And so now the Anandavalli says, well, let's now quantify this, right? What happens to a person who lives in the Gandharva Lok? What happens to one in the Pitrulok? What happens to one who performs all the karmas? What happens to the karma devas? What is the joy? What is the metric of joy, of a measure of joy of an Indralok, of one who is in Indra's presence? And just like you have, kilo, mega, giga, etc. I'm probably mixing up, but then tera, peta, exa, something like that, right? Going up. So similarly, this fantastic thing has already been done 5,000 plus years ago, right? But for the most important thing, not for goofy things like how much memory the computer has, but for happiness. Isn't that beautiful? It makes sense to me, right? Okay, so you come back to me and say, I'm not disagreeing with you. Hey, a great cup of tea is a great. Okay, chai has some unit of pleasure, right? But the problem is, if you drink too much of this chai with sugar, then you will get some chini rum, right, down the line. Exactly, right? So it's a finite thing. It will come back to bite you in some way. But then Bhagavan says, okay, now multiply this by 100, by 1,000, by 10,000, by 100,000. And then I will show you, what is the joy of somebody who knows me, right? So maybe on that positive note, with a promise to tell you the exact quantification, we'll meet again next time. What do you think? Huh? Very good. Any questions before we close out? And I need to keep an eye on the verse so that when we come back next time, so we should start on 16, right? So any questions thus far? This all
Yes.
sounds incredibly hard and grim, but I tell you, it can be fun too. Learning is fun, right? So there will be many joyous things to experience, not the least of them a satsang with such nice people. And so, any
Abhishek,
questions?
I have a question.
Yeah, Shalab.
So in the very first verse that we read today, in 11th,
Right.
Bhagwan qualifies the person he's talking about as Vitraga or Vairagya.
Right.
So my question is about, I mean, how is Vairagya attained? Is it something that one can really work for directly?
So I think the easiest way to attain Vairagya is to know this Ananda inside. So I feel, so there are two things, right? I can either push something away or I can be attracted to something sweeter. Right? Okay. Now, if I tell you, control your senses, don't do all that stuff. Okay. You can. You will have willpower, but willpower has a limit. Right? Because we cannot battle this Maya head on. Maya is too powerful. Quite simply. She's just too powerful. You cannot battle this on your own in one lifetime. Okay. So the simplest thing, there are two simple things. One is surrender. Okay. Say that, mother, you are the one, now you teach me. Right. And she'll teach you, of course, right? But then also, like, take another way, right? Suppose we want to get rid of a bad habit, right? So I'll give you an example. Say you're addicted to smoking cigarettes, right? And I tell you, listen, I'll tell you the fastest way to quit smoking cigarettes, take up an exercise program. Why is that? You go and exercise and you run on the treadmill, or you play some game, you play tennis, you play racquetball. You're going to enjoy it. But immediately it's going to tell you the bad effects of your smoking, because you'll be out of breath, right? So then as you enjoy more and more the game, you'll say, no, I don't want to do that, right? So substitute. What can I substitute for this raga, right? Ramakrishna has a very nice way of putting it. He says, replace it with a love for God, right? Okay. So by starting a puja, let's say you love to do a puja, right? So you say, okay, every day 6 p.m. I'm going to do this puja, right? So tomorrow your friend says, hey man, come, there's a movie, it's at 6:15, okay? And someday you say, no, if you on the other hand say to Tomisha, I won't go to the movies, I won't go to the movies, that sounds whatever. I really want to do this, I enjoy doing this, I'd love to go to the movies with you, but you know what, I've got to stay and do this, right? And then slowly, as your joy in this becomes deeper, right, you may go to a movie another day, maybe if it's at 3:30 or something, but now you've changed in the sense that you know that this is more joyous, right? You're not opposed to movies, you're not running away from them, but you know that there is something central here.
So
I don't know if that
to
makes
be really unattached, one has to experience this bliss at some point, right?
Yes, but as I said, that's why this metric, so even if you, like right now, we all acknowledge that there is joy in the senses, right? So now let's see if there is something a little more enduring about any of these joys of the senses. For instance, one thing that people will tell you who do puja, they say, I get peace of mind. Yes or no? Many people have told me this. Right? When I do puja, I get peace of mind. So then you just put on a tarazu. I can do my sense enjoyment and I can go to a movie. And in a movie, you will slowly, quickly become aware. They will set the volume at what they want to set it. You cannot go and then say, bhai, volume kam karo. Right? Wo kuch assault on the senses 2 minutes mein hoga. Not all movies, but many movies. And then here, you can control ki, bhai, how much dhoop I light, what volume at which I chant my thing, and you see the comparison, right? So then you say, okay, there is something deeper here. I'm not trying to say that movies are bad, not at all. There's some kind of enjoyment there too, but slowly the mind will turn, right? And that will be a more gentle, sweet, nice turning, right? So go, and if on the other hand, at another time your friend calls you to the movies, go, okay, and see what it is, right? Maybe there are some movies you learn something. I'm not saying that they're all bad, but if we try to violently withdraw from the world, that will create too many disruptions all around, and it may not be successful, because as I said, this cannot be fought by willpower alone, in my opinion. That's my humble. I mean, there are different paths, Sharab. You know, there are people, there are masters who will take you and put your head under ice cold water and say, "Now, yeah, do this." Yeah, sure, you can do it too, that way too. I just thought that something that is maybe less disturbing, right, might, and your parents might also thank me for it. Otherwise, they'll say, "Don't go to the idiot. Kya bolta hai wo? Put your head under cold water and don't eat anything." Right? I have to answer to them too.
Can I ask a follow-up on that one?
Surely.
Yeah, so thank you for explaining that. You talked about this attachment to the objects and how to get over it.
Right.
What do you think about the attachments to the fruits of the actions that we do? We always expect some results, and what's your suggestion about, like, how do you reduce those things?
Very hard, right? It's very hard.
That's just a difficult thing I find, like.
Yeah, it's just so natural that, I mean, it's amazing. If somebody brings me, a vegetable from a garden, right? Unbeknownst to myself, I've started to think how it's going to be cooked. Is it going to be cut very fine or big, right? That's already an attachment, right? Because you've already cooked it in your head. It's very true. It's very, very slippery slope. I think the best thing there that I can say is it does come naturally again as we get drawn more towards the various things that I said, like our nitya karma. As we get, I think I would say shanehi upramet, right? Slowly, slowly, one does withdraw. And I think being gentle with oneself, right? That yes, it happens, but I think it at the same time, the more the mind spends even thinking about this, it puts the seed in the mind, right? That, okay, next time, just recognize that if it's going to come, it will come. And it does many times, right? Even sometimes it even exceeds our expectations. I think that's important to note too. Sometimes the fruits exceed our expectations, right? A sense of gratitude starts to fill us. That, oh my gosh, I didn't even think that this would do that much. That's also the grace of the Lord. Sometimes it may diminish, it may come below the expectations. So as long as we can say, okay, well, that's also the grace of the Lord. That's also a prasadam, right? It's hard. It's very hard sometimes. The things that enrage and irritate us is very hard to say, oh, that's also a prasadam of the Lord. But at least having a seed of that and maybe a provisional belief in it helps, I think. That's all I can say. I completely agree with you. I think that's one of the hardest things because the mind is very tricky. So very tough and good question. Obviously coming from someone with experience, right? But I would say very good question. And I've only given some baby steps that I can think of. Yeah.
Thank you.
Achha, anything else? Or shall I say Shanti wants to? Any questions? No? Okay. Om Tachamyora Vrinimahe Gatum Yajnaya Gatum Yajnapataye Daivihi Swastirastunaham Swastirmanushebhyaham Urdhvam Jigatu Bheshajam Shanno Astu Dvipadehe Sham Chatushpade Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Namaste everyone. Have a lovely rest of your evening and weekend. See you in a week.